up, YouTube? Today I thought I'd be chatting a little bit more about the CBR 650R in terms of de-restricting and what you need to know, how you got to go about doing it. Alright, so the first thing you need to be aware of when de-restricting this bike is that you're going to need to get it tuned. Now some people might think they might not have to because it has a self-adjusting ECU. While that is the case, that's more for things like changing out the air filter or the exhaust. It can adjust for minor changes in airflow and fuel ratios for that. But for what we're going to do, it's just not going to be enough, and you're probably going to blow the bike up if you do not tune it. So before we get started, the first thing you need to understand is what the restriction actually is on the bike, and that's going to come in two separate things. The first being on the intake stacks. I'll include a photo of that to show you how much it is actually restricted. And it's limiting the amount of air into the airbox basically, and with less air, less fuel, we got less power. With that there's also an ECU restriction to compensate for the less air and adjust the fuel ratio accordingly. So they're the main two things that are limiting the bike back and making it around 40-45 horsepower to comply with the LAMS restriction. I'll put in a comparison photo of the restricted stacks versus the stock unrestricted stacks. Now when going to de-restrict the bike, the first thing you're going to be looking at is new stacks for it. And you have a few options. You can go for just the OEM ones. However, because you're going through the effort of tuning it, I highly recommend investing a bit more money into performance mods and get the most bang for your buck when you get it tuned, and get it tuned for everything: the exhaust, air filter, high velocity stacks. Get it all done in one go, and then you don't have to go back and you've got a sweet bike after that basically. Yeah, so basically, I'll just recommend you that you maybe just wait it off a bit and get a few more performance mods so you don't waste your money, because a tune is quite expensive. I paid around $1,000 to do the tune, and I did it with everything all in one go because I wanted to get the most power basically before I had to start doing internals of the bike. And yeah, very happy with it. Yeah, so maybe wait off a bit, get a few more performance mods so you get everything tuned at once. The only things I could say you can get away with without the tune is the exhaust and maybe the air filter. The bike will self-adjust with that. But anything more than that, once you start pumping a serious amount of air in, the self-adjusting ECU is just not going to do that. And it's going to run like shit, and you're probably going to just end up blowing up the bike. And it's just not worth the risk. What I recommend is maybe installing the exhaust yourself, and then maybe and then the rest kind of done at the shop when it gets tuned. You can maybe save a little bit of money if you do it yourself and put it on a trailer maybe, and then. But basically, before you go and get it tuned, you want to explain to them exactly what you're trying to do. Many tuner shops in Australia should be familiar with this bike because a lot of people de-restrict them, so they should really know what you're talking about. And yeah, they should be able to look after you. So yeah, that's basically covers the main. It's not a very big list in de-restricting this bike, but I'll just give some recommendations on what I suggest you do. Rather than going for the OEM stacks is probably around $100. Rather than going for those, I recommend getting the high velocity stacks, or a version of them. I'll include an image of the ones I've got. They're the ones I recommend you do. You have all cheap alternatives. You could also file out the restriction on the stock ones, but I'll just rather do it properly and actually gain some extra performance as much as you can. Things to note that you don't need to tune for: the OEM quick shifter can't be adjusted by a tuner. I already tried. They basically said they can't tamper with it at all, that I have to get a different quick shifter if I want to do that, which is something I did before going to tune it, in case I could tamper with it a little bit, make it a bit smoother. But I was told you can't do anything with the OEM one, which is fun. yeah, I recommend doing a better air filter. I went with the DNA air filter. It seems to be the most popular one. I didn't do like things one at a time, so I can't really give feedback on each thing, how much it changed the bike, as I did it all in one go. I did a full system, air filter, velocity stacks, and just, yeah, pumped it all out at once. And from my experience, I gained, so the bike is pushing 92 horsepower at the wheel. I've had some comments saying, oh, but stock is 94. It's 94 at the crank, but it's not 94 at the wheel. So in reality, stock unrestricted is actually pushing like, call it 88, 86 horsepower at the wheel. Yeah, so manufacturers will always post crank horsepower, not wheel horsepower. So that's just I've had a few people a bit confused by that, why unrestricted my horsepower was lower, or it seemed lower. It's actually not. At the crank, it's probably pushing upwards of close to 100. But we don't care about crank horsepower. It's all about what you get out of at the wheel, basically. So if you're looking at this bike and you think, oh, it's only going to cost you $50 to de-restrict it, it's not. It's an expensive de-restriction. You're looking at least probably a few thousand if you want serious performance out of it. Still not too bad. For the amount of horsepower you're gaining, you're doubling it. But yeah, I suggest just waiting until you've got all the parts ready, you got all the money ready, and you get the most out of your tune. Because if you rush to do the tune with just the normal restrictions, then you're going to have to go back and retune it for all the extra stuff you do later. Just better off just waiting, do it all in one go, and get the max out of your bike. But it's a very good bike if you want to get it and plan to de-restrict it later when you progress on your license or you get a bit more experienced. Yeah, let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.